What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the State of MMA Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Roach, and wow. Before we start off, wow. If you didn't see UFC 226 and the breakdown I had previous to this in the last episode, do yourself a favor. Go back and check it out. Get the pay-per-view, whatever you need to do to watch it. History was made. Congratulations to Daniel Cormier. Had to start the show off like that. Can't do it any other way. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for the overwhelming support on every source of social media out there. Appreciate it, guys. If you'd like to see more, you want to keep this going, like, subscribe, comment down below. That's all you need to do. Click the little bell. Share this to your friends, your family, your mother, your uncle, your grandma, whoever wants to see it. Anything MMA is going to be here, guys. And it's a little odd of a week. Let's just put it that way. You got a fight card going on, but there's some things I wanted to talk about and bring up, especially with some things that are going on in the stuff I don't normally like to delve into in MMA, the drama side of it. But without further ado, a little bit of things going to be different here. Today's gym showcase is very near and dear and personal to me. It's where I had my last amateur fight from when I was in Michigan. One of my coaches there, he's absolutely amazing. The only coach that runs it actually there, and all the guys that I got to train with. I'm going to pull this one up for you guys real quick. Boom. It's not that big. This is Integrated Trading Systems with my former coach, Lee Dickinson. This is a martial arts studio that he turned his pretty much garage into. It was a garage, and then it became like a second home that was just workout, training mats, everything. It's where I was able to go where I wanted to train, and I wanted to be with a certain select group of people. Not that everybody that trains MMA is good, bad, and different. There's just certain places that I lived around in my area that they were taking advantage of certain people, and they weren't teaching the correct philosophies. And we'll touch on that later, because we're normally used to you guys seeing a fighter spotlight today. It's going to be a coach's spotlight. It's going to be about my former trainer, just a little touch, nothing too crazy. We don't want to go too much into it, but I would like to touch on that based off the facts of what we're going to talk about today in the episode. Keep it nice, short, and sweet. But again, this is Integrated Trading Systems. This is where I started. Lovely blue mats, huge area. We had 4 to 5 guys at all times rolling. Right behind this is where the weight room was. A small, probably 20 by 10 room. So not too much, but you can see a lot of guys that you don't know of or you haven't heard of, or like we showcased, and he did get the victory. Violent Bob Ross, big shout out, my man. Congratulations. We look to see more. He already made his call out. He's going to go to AKA permanently, and then also take some time off. I guess he wants to come back November, December time, so it's absolutely perfect. Great mindset, wants to get better, wants to improve, and then come back and showcase his new skills. But like he said before, having to live out of somebody's closet to go train in certain places, or not a lot of training areas where you grew up in, this is what I had to deal with. Not a lot of places. I got to find and was lucky enough to get one of these guys right here. This is absolutely amazing. Moving on, though, guys. UFC 226 broke history. Daniel Cormier beating Stipe Miocic. Again, just, oh, man, guys. Whew. So there's 2 double champs, and one could argue that Cormier is the more legitimate of the 2. Trust me, I'm a huge Conor fan, but you look at both of them. If he defends, and he has defended multiple times already, the light heavyweight belt, if he defends the heavyweight after one more time and defends the light heavyweight one more time, he could go down as the best overall UFC fighter, period. Overall, period. And when everybody wants to bring up John Jones, he lost to John Jones. And you know what? I was on that train for a long time. I was the one ready to be on it and tell everybody the little asterisk next to DC's name. It's got to be there, right? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. So how can we give a guy the greatest fighter of all, called the greatest fighter of all time, when you ruined everything that you could have been? If we look at this prospectively, and you go to my Twitter account, which I posted after reading a few things, we could have been watching John Jones. Daniel Cormier's win could have been John Jones. If John Jones wouldn't have done the things that he did and made the choices he made, he would be exactly where Daniel Cormier is right now. And that's hard to take in for all of us. And we all could use a little bit of self-reflection in our own lives about the choices that we made and why we're not where we are. Same goes right now for John Jones. He's looking at this and going, wow, maybe if I wasn't doing drugs out partying, I wouldn't have hit that pregnant lady in a car and I'd be in a better situation. Maybe if I didn't do cocaine a few nights out before my fight. It's all well and good. We all love the story. It's awesome. And do what you want to do. I'm all for people doing what they want to do in this life. But if your goal is to become the baddest man on the planet and be a two-time champ, and you want to claim these things, and you're a role model for the generations to come of what to do to become and attain this, you're not going to be able to do those things. Eventually they catch up to you. You might be the greatest for a while, but they catch up to you. And we saw that with John Jones. So hats off to DC. To me, wipe away the John Jones until you want to come back and you can actually get through USADA and we don't have to hear excuse after excuse of I took a dick pill or it was a tainted thing in my protein. It's 3 times now. And as everybody would like to say, where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, something's going on. Like, what's happening? You just happen to get into these situations, and like you can joke about it all you want, but you're a UFC fighter who you know yourself gets tested, and you know you've had issues with this before, you know what's coming up. And to point out a little bit even more to this, you look at this card coming up, we're jumping a little bit around here, and I'll get to my points eventually. This UFC Fight Night, July 14th. You have Chad Mendes, who owned up to it. He had I believe it was psoriasis skin condition going on. He used a skin cream that had something in it that he knowingly shouldn't have taken, and he thought about it, and he knew he shouldn't have been doing it. So he took the 2-year suspension. Granted, he came out some knockouts, knockout losses that he needed to kind of recuperate his brain and do some other things. But you know you're doing something wrong, or you know something. I took a Cialis that I didn't know was gonna. Come on, man. Come on. Yeah, ha, it's funny. But look at where it got you. Look at where it got you. So now DC is the role model of what to do. Where you should be doing, what you be doing, where you should be going as a fighter. You should be looking at DC. Look at that script. Look at AKA. Look at Cain Velasquez helping out his friend to train him to be the heavyweight championship. Come on. It's a great story out there, guys. Great story. So many other fights. I don't even want to talk about the Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou disaster, the pretty much ballet show. And Schaub touched on how Dana shouldn't bash Ngannou because of this, and that. It could break his ego even more. Dana said he already had ego issues. I don't know what it was or what it is, but I made this note before Ngannou fought Stipe, and we've talked about this before. He doesn't seem mentally strong in that aspect of fighting it with that you can just take that and get demolished. When you're riding this high and you think you just run through people, then something happens, you have that adversity. He's afraid to get touched again and get hit, especially by a guy who, Derek Lewis, had knockout power. That being said, if you want to be successful and you want to do something with your career in the heavyweight division, you got to do what Stipe did, man. You look at what Stipe did. He put himself right in the fire. He's right in the middle. He got knocked out. He gets back up. Wasn't my night. I'll be back. It's the heavyweight division. Everybody gets knocked out. You saw DC had it was a touch. Boom. It's over. That's the fight. We called it. It's done. So that's whatever. It is what it is. You had so many fights. The Felder fight with Mike Perry was amazing. Felder breaking his, I don't know if his hand or his forearm or what it was early on in the fight. Just a bloody massacre going on in there. Every single other fight on this card was amazing. I'm not going to give anything else away. I know it's only been a week, so go ahead, watch the fight, see what you guys need to do to catch up. I'm telling you right now, it was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. But something happened. The Ortega fight got canceled with Max Holloway, right? So that was going to be a thing, and it got taken away. And then there were some things that happened afterwards that I didn't really like. I heard Brian Ortega talk on Ariel Helwani's show, and I tuned in to listen to Luis Pena. Because, again, shout out to our boy Bob Ross. He got it done. He got it done in spectacular fashion on the Ultimate Fighter finale. Spectacular fashion. And then I listened to Brian Ortega talk about how Dana White is threatening to not give him his show money, and how he might not get paid for this at all, even though it was 2 days before the fight was supposed to start and it wasn't his fault. So it seemed kind of odd to me that that could happen. And because everybody's contract is different in the UFC and you don't know the details and what's going on, and Brian Ortega had what's called there's no show win. Normally you have like a Nate Diaz, who would be like a 70, 100, let's say. He makes $70,000 a show, $100,000 a win, $50,000 if he loses or something. Show, win, lose, break it down. Ortega had a one full scope win bonus, win pay, 150,000 probably we'll say. That's what he was supposed to get for winning. One lump. Because of that, they're trying to say that he doesn't have show money. So this kind of disturbed me a little bit. And then hearing Dana's remarks of what he said from Ortega's side, and you listen to the way that Ortega's saying it and how he is as a person, it's not like it's a lot of outrageous comments, and he seemed disheartened and confused. And he even said and came up with the line of, well, at least pay my family. At least pay my camp. Don't worry about me. Take care of them. And to me, that's just bullying. Dana White knows that he should be paying Brian Ortega for this. He should be. Should get show money. And he should be taking care of his camp. But he's threatening him and bullying him because he has that authority and that position. So this brings me to my point of something that's really, really hard to talk about in MMA and the fighting community, because you have people on two different sides. And I finally picked my side. After reading multiple things on the NFL's player association and their collective bargaining agreements and everything that they've gone through, and I know not everybody agrees with unionizing sports, and they say it's ruined certain aspects in NBA. But I'm here to say that there needs to be a fighters union for the UFC and for MMA. If you're going to make this legitimate and we're going to be doing this, we can't have that. And what Dana White has been for the UFC for so many years, this promoter, the face, he can still be all that. He can still be there. But his opinion doesn't matter. And I think that's what has gotten to him now over these years. Is he's made some good decisions I like. He helps out certain fighters. He does. If you are fighting and you're an active dude and you're going to say whatever for the company, he's going to have your back. To an extent. And that's the promoter thing. And that's where it comes with the Donald Cerrone stuff that happened in my mind, that he used Donald Cerrone way more than he ever should have. Donald should have been a multi-time champion already. But because Dana keeps doing this badass mentality of a fighter's fights and you always take fights, doesn't matter when, where. No. No, no, and no. I'm sorry, no. You don't. You don't do that. This isn't checkers. This isn't a strategy game. This isn't video gaming. This isn't even football. This is mixed martial arts, where one punch can change everything for your future. One kick, look at Frankie Edgar and Brian Ortega. Frankie Edgar takes that fight on short notice, loses. Ortega jumps right in the title contention spot. Frankie's out. May have to fight 3 more times before he gets a title shot. What does that do to Frankie? What does that do to his career? What if he loses again? Throws it all up in the air for him. That's his life. That's his business. That's what he's working on. You have to think that that's Frankie Edgar, the business. That's Frankie Edgar, I can't lose these fights. I need to make more money. I need to play smart. It would be strategy. And I'm not always the biggest fan of these things because it can ruin the sport to an extent. You watched Greg Jackson and Winklejohn fighters fight now. For a while, it's always been this. Yes, everything's a chess match, and I get it. You got to make them stop doing it. But I hate game planning in a way that is, we're going to go in, we're going to hit him with 2-3 shots, we're going to go in for a double leg, try the takedown, doesn't work, we back out, we recenter, and engage. And the whole fight is a circle. It looks like not everybody's going to get the video game reference of cheesing a boss, but it's knowing how to do one or two things to get the judges to score it in your favor. And I don't like that because the judging scoring system's off. And yeah, you can say, well, it's part of the system. They can take advantage of it anyway. Yes and no. It's hard. Anyway, getting back on track. Dana White made some comments about Ortega, and then he's gone and made some comments about who I would probably say is my idol of fighters that have changed and pivoted out of their career into something different. And that's Brendan Schaub. And he's hated on Brendan Schaub since day one. He's always been against him. He now has called him a moron and an idiot, and he's right on the comments that he made. And Stylebender, shout out to the Stylebender, man. I already said he was going to win that fight. I have high hopes for him. But Schaub is correct in what he said. High-level kickboxers don't always translate to MMA. I mean, I love Joe Schilling to death. He's one of Rogan's buddies. He's been on Bellator kickboxing. But it didn't always translate to MMA, and he said that. He said it's much, much different. What was his... I'm trying to think of it now. It's not Rico Van Hooven. I'm drawing a blank. I'll think of it absolutely later. Melvin Manhoef. Melvin Manhoef is who went, again, had no career in MMA. Couldn't happen. You look at Gokhan Saki, absolute animal. Just got dropped by Ogletree. Not that Ogletree's a nobody, but he's not a number one contender. And Brad Tavares is a far, far cry from what Stylebender is going to fight in the wrestling department in his weight class. Tavares is a great fighter, great overall stand-up guy, great takedown defense. Matchup-wise, poor matchup for him. Should have came in with a singlet and tried double legs. And really pushed the pace on that and grinded it out. So it's hard to say he was wrong. But Dana's retorts that he keeps on attacking other people, saying he doesn't know how... He literally said that once he's not successful, that once he stops riding coattails or Rogan stops holding him up, he'll be irrelevant. Mind you, this is a former UFC heavyweight that was on the Ultimate Fighter, the show, that was on the main event against Roy Nelson, that helped you promote, is one of your biggest media outlets when it comes to the voice he has to the UFC and to MMA. He could boycott the UFC and do strictly Bellator and move on from there and never touch that and have constant interviews and be the reason Bellator grows. Could easily happen that way if you don't watch your P's and Q's. The funny thing that he did drop out or whatever, if you haven't checked it, go to Schaub's Twitter. He wrote this note out to Dana White, and it's got some intriguing comments in it. And it brings me back to Dana White, and it brings me back to this union. It brings me back to the Players Association, the NFL. And there's been multiple times where they had to collectively bargain and go on strikes. And what I want to see in the UFC is something where you have a pay scale for fighters that are, let's say, within their first 3 years or 4 years with the UFC, they should have a pay scale for themselves. And the pay scale can change based on their wins and re-signing of contracts. I don't know the full details of what they can do, but you need a base. You need a base and window. So when I come into fight camp and I'm expected to fight fighter A, and I've been in a 3-week camp already, and I've got 6 weeks left to go, and I don't get injured, but he gets injured, and I've already paid for half of my camp, what compensation is that fighter going to get from the UFC? It shouldn't be, I'm going to ask Dana, and they're going to check, and then they'll get back to me. I should be able to ask that question and go, the compensation for 4 weeks of camp is $50,000. They take care of your camp and any medical expenses that you may need after hard training, any concussion symptoms, blah, blah, blah. And you have the opportunity to take a different fight, boost up your whatever earnings you would get, or be on a next card very soon. These options that you could get for fighters. Getting different sponsors in front of everybody. So everybody in the NFL has sponsored from this, and this. And then they get to be sponsored from their jersey and different things of that sort. And you have your brand outside of the NFL. And the NFL will help you with your own brand outside of it and what you can do for yourself. And the Players Association is what's part of that. The Players Association is what helps the NFL players that come in, help them with their money. Help them with business. Help them pivot out of that once they're done. Because the career is very short, as it is with the UFC and MMA. So I bring this all around together because you have an example in Brendan Schaub who has left and become super successful, and he's getting bashed for it and discredited, when you should be recruiting him to talk to your fighters of what to do to make themselves better. Because when you promote them, when they promote themselves and they get this outreach like Schaub did and got his name turned to Big Brown instead of the hybrid because he had such a cult following behind him even when he was losing, that's what happens for people. And the UFC can create that for certain people, but it doesn't always come about. And if you help fighters with that by having them talk to Matt Hughes, George St. Pierre, Brendan Schaub, Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, instead of having Dana's personality get in the way with him yelling at Tito Ortiz all the time, saying Chuck shouldn't fight, bashing Brendan Schaub. Schaub made a great point. Without the Fertittas, I'm not sure Dana knows what to do, and he doesn't have the reins to get pulled back anymore. Where the Fertittas would come out and talk to these guys and help the situation out a little bit more. I don't know if Dana knows that he's doing the wrong things now. And I know the UFC's moving forward, and I know it's trying to do things, but I'm looking we're going to talk a little bit about this new card after I go through the unionization of the UFC and MMA, and I'm looking at this card and I'm going, didn't know this fight was going on, didn't know he was fighting, and then I'm looking at this and going, why? I don't know any of half these people, and that's okay. And you look at the prelims, and I go, you got Liz Carmouche on the prelims, but you've got 5 unknowns on FS1 prelims, but I'm confused. I'm a little torn. I don't know what's going on here. I want to see the UFC go in better directions. I want to see them do good things. I think the partnership with the ESPN stuff, like I talked before, was great, but I think the union is what they need. I think a fighters union, aka a players union, and a collective bargaining agreement is what they need. And they need fighters that are former veterans. Because you look at the UFC and you start seeing glaring holes in how they run their business. In the aspect of, look at their Hall of Fame. And look who gets snubbed out of that. Rich Franklin gets snubbed out because he's the owner of ONE FC, another MMA organization. That shouldn't matter at all. Competition is great. And if anything, a good relationship with Rich Franklin could be a farm league for you from other countries. Very easily. But he's not on there. But Ronda Rousey is. Who just retired. Shouldn't we wait a little bit before we start throwing people in the Hall of Fame? What if she decides she wants to come back for a fight? No, that's not going to happen because it's just not going to happen. But that's my point. You have so many fighters now on this. And I see the pay, and it's getting better. The pay for these fighters is getting tremendously better. You look at Luis Pena, who his life just got changed with almost $50,000 or more. $100,000. Life-changing. Absolutely life-changing for him. So that's great. And the UFC is doing amazing things in that way. But what else are you going to do for him? What happens if he gets injured during camp? You're going to pay for some medical expenses? Does the camp get compensated? Are they going to have to, brush it off? Does he get, I don't understand. And the joke was made about certain fighters going to, TJ Dillashaw going to, get stem cells, or the joke of who the UFC should send to go get those stem cells because they get special treatment. And I'm fine with top-tier players getting certain special treatment. But you should send all of your fighters to get certain levels of treatment. They should all be entitled to this. And then when you have your high-caliber fighters, something happens and you need to get them back in a pinch, yeah, it's okay. Cover their stem cell research. That's fine. Go send them, go do this. That's all right. And then when you start making X amount and you get to that tier, you're going to get that too. The special treatment. All this other stuff needs to be taken care of. These sponsors need to be helped out. Yeah, they need to do some things themselves. but they also need coaching into that. And you don't just learn that. They got to fighting because they enjoyed it or they thought that they have to. They're just born to fight and that's what they want to do, or they enjoy the sport itself. It's kind of like asking a race car driver to just have a great personality and talk and brand himself. That's not up to him. He's not always going to be that good with it. But if you have other people around that can help influence, Deion Sanders comes in and helps out younger players. Shaq's come in and help out younger players. These are just a couple examples. You can find many, many more. Drew Brees has been out there helping people. No, he loves it. Do some research on the NFL Players Association, the collective bargaining agreements. Let me know what you think about that in the chat. In the comments. Let me know. Because unionizing these fighters and getting them to band together to have the ability to go and look around and go, hey, what are you going through? What are you going through? What's going on over here? What are you doing over here? And then you bring in coaches and camps. And then they can talk and discuss and go, oh, hey, you guys are doing this? How much is that costing you? Okay, we're all about the same here? All right, awesome. That's going to be covered no matter what now. Every fighter needs this. All right, covered. Let's take care of that. Let's go forward. And then you're going to see that as a community, and people are going to take the UFC more seriously because it's not like boxing. And you can't go down that avenue that boxing's been down because look at it. If the UFC goes that route where they just start putting out cards and start banking on having fighters, and I know you can't bank on Conor McGregor coming in and winning all of his fights. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. He lost to Nate Diaz. So you can't do that, but you can also understand that, yes, undefeated 10-2 fighters and your title contenders are what you want and build great cards. But people also tune in for personalities and people that they can follow and find. More people are going to tune in because of that than you think. Because you can develop a following or where to reach them or what to put them on. And you give them an access and outlet. Oh, you want to be on a podcast? You want to start a podcast as a fighter? This is what you want to do? Oh, we can't put you on the embedded because you're in the prelims. But you know what we can do? Here's fighter X, Y, and Z. Here is this person as well. And they're going to show you how to get these sponsors to help you do your own video. And what it takes to do your own podcast. That's a thought. Oh, and then by the way, everybody gets at least $20,000 to fight for the first 2 years if you recently signed with the UFC. And then change it from there. Whatever you guys want to do, make it fair. Bargain for the fighters. I don't understand why this is so hard for everybody to get behind, and I don't understand why Dana White is so against it. Leslie Smith had her issues. Tim Kennedy had his issues. George St. Pierre quit the sport because of PEDs and the lack of fighter support. And then only came back once USADA was in play. And the UFC took a step forward getting USADA. Couple that with some fighters' agreements. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe all the fighters are going to sit down and agree and go, you know what? USADA's too strict. We need X, Y, and Z to be available. We need IVs. We need to be able to recover. Okay? You can get it. The IV has to come from USADA. So you know you're not blood doping. You got to do it directly with them. UFC can take care of that. And yeah, it might drive up some costs of certain things, but the UFC is not going to be hurting for money. Especially when you're taking care of your fighters and they're going to want to fight for you more. They're going to want to take those fights because what is there to lose? Yeah, it might bump down a little bit if you lose the fight, but I know I'm going to get paid. I know this is going to happen. I know I'm going to be taken care of. Blah, 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 blah. So much has changed in the NFL over the years, and there's the swing of power on both sides. And everybody always says, well, I think that NFL players get paid too much and this and that. what they do and put their bodies through and what actually happens to them and their choice and what other that's all well and good and different, but it's what the businesses are making off of them. The businesses want to pawn it off on the players, but when a player's making, say, 10 million over 6 years, seems like a lot. How much is the owner of the team making? 4.6 billion over that? So in all reality, the UFC got sold for 4 billion or more, or whatever it was. You got to look at it from that perspective. If the UFC is going to increase what they do for fighters, it's going to increase fighters' performance. It's going to increase their legitimacy. People are going to want to watch it more. And you can even make less fights too if you need to cut down on costs. Cut out 10 cards. There you go. You save money. Come up with a new whatever undercard thing. There's so many different ways you could go about this and make this happen, and they're against it. And whatever Dana decided to do this week, or whatever he got off his meds that made these things happen and say the things that he said and do what he's done, has had to force my hand in this and push it forward, because I can't believe that the promoter and the president of this company is going to continuously bash people that have taken what they've done in in the sport of MMA, in his company, and then pivoted it and made it even more popular. Because now people know Brendan Schaub, and they know now that he's a fighter. They see him as a comedian who has a podcast, who used to fight, and tells them to tune in. 20 million downloads a month. Come on. What are you doing? Like, why would you do that? If they're talking bad about the company, saying like actual bad, and saying don't watch the UFC, it's an awful thing, blah, 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 go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, that person doesn't deserve to have that spot anymore. You can do what you need to do. But you can't have this guy running the show anymore. You can't have this guy out there telling everybody that this is what needs to happen, this is this person, blah, 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 blah. He's too big of a point. He makes too much noise. People will listen to him, and it's 40% of the time he might be right. 60% of the time it's a bunch of bull. Absolutely nothing is correct. I don't know what more to say, but I think it's more of a rant that this turned into, but I really, really have to stress to you guys to do some research here, to take a look, to go out, to support the fighters when they do this. Reach out. Fighters, do not be so nervous to stand behind each other. If you got to strike, you got to strike. Guess what? Bellator is there for you. Bellator is going to be there for you. I'm telling you, look at all the guys that have gone there and are happy. If the UFC isn't going to do it, maybe Bellator will make a fighters union. It'll be the way to go. Somebody has to do it. And the first person to do it, I guarantee you, is going to be the one that's going to jump ahead of the other eventually. You got to get the fighters together to decide some things that are going on. It's only going to help the brand. It's only going to help the company. Get everybody together. Get a union going on. Get it started. Get these talks going. Get crappy names away from the situation. You don't need promoters. You need fighters. You need fighters. Take a Chael Sonnen. Take a Tim Kennedy. Take a George St. Pierre. Take a Joe Rogan, who's got friends in business that can help these guys get this together and move forward. There's so many people that could be a part of this union. The fighters, the trainers, your coaches, all these gyms that could collaborate. We're here for the fighters in the state of MMA today. We're here for the fans. We're here for the community. And that's why I had to bring this up. That's why today is about the unions, guys. And that's why I strongly suggest that we all push for a fighters union for the sake of the fighters and the sake of the sport. That's what I'm saying. Thank you guys very much for listening to that little spiel. Top, bottom right corners, guys, onit.com. Go check them out as always. If you've liked anything I've said so far, like, comment, subscribe, all down below. Thank you guys very much. we're going to move forward into the spotlight section of the show, which is going to be a little different. As I said before, if you look behind me, it's a powerful green screen studios here. This is Integrated Training Systems. This was my former amateur coach, Lee Dickinson's training grounds. Absolutely loved it here, guys. I had such a great time. And I wanted to spotlight Lee Dickinson. And I wanted to spotlight him for many reasons. And I think a lot of his fighters that he's trained can attest to this, and why I think that this is so important with what we talked about with Dana and certain other coaches, and with Ortega having Henner and Huron Gracie's intelligence there with him to help him push him forward and to say no to a bad decision on taking a fight in 2 days' notice. Lee Dickinson was not only a coach for me and other people, but he was a role model in the way that he thought, the way that he talked, and he was positive. And when bad things were happening around us and other gyms were doing dirty things and not doing, he was there. Let's not pay attention to that, guys. We're going to do our own thing. Let's go. We're going to train here. We're going to do this. This is how we're going to be. We're not going to be negative. We're not going to say this. Blah, blah, blah. He always had our backs. I remember the last fight I had, he made the ref check the guy's nails 2 or 3 times and then yelled at him after the fight when they were long. And 2 of the guys, myself and another guy included, had scratches all over him from other people. And then the way he taught us to live our lives outside of fighting. The mental toughness, how to treat certain people, what not to do. It's a martial arts instructor. And it does something for you. And a lot of people don't understand it, and you won't understand it until you get into it. And I believe that Lee helped so many people and is still continuing to help people. He's still training people. He's still helping out. So I'll put the link down below for you guys to his Facebook page. If you're in the area, in the Michigan area, in the Thumb area, maybe you're over in Canada and you want to reach out to him and you're looking for private lessons, this is the guy to go through. He's got so much experience. He's so smart. He's so well-rounded in what he does. And it's important to have a positive impact and a positive role model. And I can't stress this enough. I'll re-say that. It's very important in the MMA world and in life to have positive influences and a positive role model. Someone that's helping your negative mind and telling you can't do this and you shouldn't push forward and, oh my God, I'm going to quit, or I should quit. Those people are going to be there for you. I went to an event and got an Evander Holyfield signature on one of my books. The first person I thought about giving it to was him. It was the only thing I had to show appreciation in my mind. Went back and I had to give it to him and say thank you. And I would always say thank you for everything that he's done, for the strength that he's given me in my confidence, for the strength that he's given others, for the positive role model that he is and that he has been. I cannot stress enough what a good coach and a good martial art instructor will do for you and has done for multiple people in this MMA community. There's a reason why the last spotlights for most of these fighters, when the Metro PCS, who would you call, or phone thing, they talk about their coaches, their family that's there for them and helping them. And that's why you look at Stipe, I wouldn't be here without this. And then Daniel Cormier, I wouldn't be here without Bob Cook. I wouldn't be here without this person. I wouldn't be here without my training coach partner, Cain Velasquez, that positive force. That's my spotlight today, guys. That's Lee Dickinson. That's the guy who it was for me. Back in Michigan, integrated training systems, absolutely amazing. I couldn't say anything better. There's nothing bad I could say about it. I had overwhelming positive experiences, and it's what's got me to this positive mindset that I've had throughout martial arts and kept me away from that. I got bullied, now what do I do? And now I learn these things, and now I want to fight people. And I took it, I was like, if it's not in a cage and it's not, we don't want to go spar, I don't want to do it anymore. There's no reason for that. And I think that helped me so much in my life to get over, and something makes me mad, and instead of being, I need to punch something to hurt somebody, it's just, whatever. It is what it is. Can't just accept it, move on. Let's keep going. You got to do what you got to do. Put the work in and go from there. Look behind you, guys. You don't need much. You can be successful at anything you want to be. Just put the work in and do it. Look behind me. Absolutely amazing the things that he's done for people. Absolutely amazing what he's done for me, and what he's continuing to do with the youth in the area. So I can't thank him enough. Shout out again, Spotlight, Lee Dickinson, guys, Integrated Trading Systems. Check them out locally if you're in Michigan. I absolutely appreciate you guys for stopping by. This is the state of MMA. It's a little different than we've done before in the past few episodes. A little bit more mellow, a little different pace. I'm going to try to change some things up here on the next few episodes. We're going to get those spotlights out to you guys a little bit differently. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you're thinking, guys. Do you want to see more breakdowns? Do you want to hear more about the fighters? Do you want to hear more inside story stuff? What do you guys want to hear? What do you want to see? I'm going to keep bringing it to you. Comment down below. Like, subscribe, follow. Check me out on Instagram and Twitter. We'll have links up in the bottom. Remember, always be positive out there, guys. Keep a good mindset. Let's look for the Fighters Union to take place. Check out the card coming up the 14th. It's absolutely amazing. It's going to be a great banger, guys. Thank you for tuning in. This is the State of MMA Today. I'm Jeremy Roach. See ya.